So the New England Patriots are in a tough spot. I don't think there's any getting around it. They've had a disappointing season after there were high hopes making the playoffs last year in Mac Jones' rookie season, but a disappointing 2022. Let's talk about why they've been disappointing, what's gone wrong, and how they potentially can fix it for the future, and just what's been the issue. Who's to blame? Is it Bill Belichick? Who do we blame here? So first things first, let's start off with this chart. This is going to be their PFF grades from the past 2 seasons. So we're kind of using this as a way to see, okay, where have they gotten better this year and where have they gotten worse this year? They have gotten better in some areas. It hasn't just been worse across the board, but let's talk about where they have gotten worse. So first, let's start off with the passing game, right? That's the main thing everyone wants to talk about. Oh, Mac Jones has regressed, that right? That's the narrative, and there's some truth to that. I mean, the passing game has dropped off a little bit, although I don't think it's as massive as maybe some people might think. Again, a 5-point drop off, or 5 placement drop off, that's relatively significant. And I should mention these are, I can't remember if I mentioned this or not, these are PFF grades. That's what we're talking about here. So this is the placement in PFF grades. A 5 position drop off here for Mac Jones is, it's something. It's certainly not nothing, but that's not the difference between being a playoff team and being I guess maybe it is the difference between being a playoff team and a mediocre team. That is something that matters, but there's other issues that I would say are at play here. Now, interestingly, you look at the offensive line, and I do feel like one thing I've noticed a lot is, man, the offensive line doesn't look as good, although pass blocking grades have actually been better this year than run blocking grades. They've actually been 3 spots better, although the run blocking grades have completely fallen off. I mean, going from the 8th best run block team to the 23rd best run block team, literally a top 10 team to a bottom 10 team in 1 year. Losing Shaq Mason certainly hurts. Cole Strange has, he's been fine. He hasn't been a mess, but he hasn't been good either. So, that's been that's been a big drop off. There's been other issues at play besides just that, including, every offensive line has their injuries, of course. But in this spot, I mean, that's definitely going to hurt you, especially when you are a run-happy team. You look at the other 2 categories, and this is also what you can see made the offense look a lot worse, is PFF was a big fan of their running game and their receiving game last year. They had their receiving game as 7th best in football and their running game as 2nd best in football. This year, it's dropped all the way back to 21st in football, the receiving game, and that's been a big issue. There's been a plethora of reasons, them losing trust in Kendrick Bourne for whatever reason seems like a weird one. The Devontae Parker move, which people were confused about, has absolutely worked. I mean, that's been a great addition for them, nice pickup for them, but the other moves just haven't worked out as well, and it just feels like Belichick isn't really willing to go out and spend big money on getting a great receiver, but it feels like that's something this team desperately needs. It's a passing league. You need good receivers now to make it far into the playoffs. So, not having that definitely hurts this Patriots team. And then the running game, which, I still like Ramondre Stevenson. I still like Harris. I still think they have good players. But again, injuries always affect that position. Only getting 173 snaps out of Damian Harris is definitely, that hurts. Although Stevenson still played very well. It seems like it's kind of the other guys when they came in and ran that's actually hurt the running game a decent amount. But I don't know. I would still say that, in terms of the running game, this is just the backs when they run it, or, if someone else runs the ball, then they're great as well. So Mac Jones' rushing ability hurts it a little. But I would still say, I think, having Stevenson's a star, I still think that they're doing okay there. As for the defense, you're going to see some areas has gotten worse. The run defense has dropped a couple of spots. The pass rush, though, has moved up significantly. It was a bottom 10 pass rush in 2021, but this year it's been the 11th best pass rush. A big part of it is Matthew Judon had a solid season last year, but I think really stepped up this year, and that's been a big aspect of why this pass rush has been very effective in 2022. Coverage has dropped a little bit, though, which was expected, although I don't think it dropped as much as people thought it would. I think that there was still some guys who come in and played very well. Now, it was early on the season, kind of at the top tier coverage. It's fallen off a little bit since then, which maybe should have been expected. Maybe we should have realized, some of these guys aren't going to be elite the whole season, but still, I still think it's fair to say that this coverage unit has been a pleasant surprise. But as a whole, looking at this, seems like the biggest issues are the run blocking, receiving, and then I would just say running game in general. I don't really blame the backs for it the way PFF does, but the running game in general, and then receivers not getting as open, which probably has been a bit of why Mac Jones has taken a step back this year. It's also worth mentioning they actually have Bailey Zappi with a higher PFF grade than Mac Jones this season, so that's another aspect of, kind of the weirdness going on with the passing game. But as a whole, that's been a part of it. But I also want to talk about this, pass frequency over expected, and I'm taking out the when the win probability is less than 30% or over 70%. So only in a situation where it's kind of an even game sit spot, right? That's when we want to look at how often they run the football. This year, they run the ball more than expected, as in they throw the ball less than expected on, 3% less than expected, that's significant. That's a decent amount less than expected, but it's nothing on last season. If you look, last year they ran the ball 9% less than expected, which I don't have the numbers for last year, but that has to be towards the bottom of the list. What's worth noting is if this chart is true, which it is true, I can't believe this, but on a second down and 1 or 2 last year, when the win probability was 30% to 70%, they ran the ball every time, I believe is what it says. Maybe they ran the ball once and it just wasn't enough to register, but I believe they ran the ball just every time in that situation, which is amazing to think about. And, a lot of people talked a bit about how, okay, last year, there were a lot of training wheels on Mac Jones. That's kind of what it felt like. But the reality is, their running offense was very good. And again, part of me wonders how much of this is skewed by that one Buffalo game where they only threw the ball 3 times. If you take that out, does it impact it a little bit? Potentially. But even so, I would still say that this is probably still a significant. They ran the ball more last year than they did this year. Does that mean they should be throwing the ball more this year? Or, excuse me, means they should be throwing the ball less this year? You could make that argument, although I don't think that I would. I think I would still sit here and say, no, I think that they're probably doing the right thing this year. It's just that the running offense hasn't been as good this year as it was last year. And since the running offense has taken a step back, they don't have that dominant force at play on offense, and they're struggling a bit. Again, a lot of stuff has been the issue. I think that definitely blaming Matt Patricia is a part of it, and blaming Bill Belichick is a part of it for hiring Matt Patricia. He deserves that blame at the end of the day. But I do think that that's something that I think is fascinating is, on one hand, the players haven't played as well this year. On the other hand, is part of the reason these players haven't played as well this year because of the situation they've been put in by their head coach. At the end of the day, talent wins football games, but you also have to factor in that a coach has a hand in the talent and in the talent playing well and in the talent doing good. So, while yes, having good players is what's going to win you a football game, part of the reason why these players haven't played as well this year might be because of coaching. So, for me, I think that at the end of the day, Bill Belichick's not going anywhere. He's going to be here next year, and there's still plenty of things I really like about Belichick. I think he's done a great job with this defense. I still think he's a great X's and O's defensive coordinator. He might, if in a hypothetical scenario where the Patriots fire him, there's, I think all 32 teams are trying to see if they can get him on their coaching staff in some capacity, probably as a head coach, and his defensive stuff is always still going to be great. But clearly he needs an offensive guy. I think it's also fair to say, not sure if Patricia is that guy, but that's kind of what I think. Also, again, receiving core taking a step back, Mac Jones taking a step back. How much of that is from coaching? I don't know, but that's been an issue. And then just the run blocking taking a step back. I think that's probably more just talent more than coaching stuff. So that's been another issue. But yeah, that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.